Emerging from a cave, the Relic First Guardian strikes you immediately with its somber tone. A trail leads to a burning farmhouse where a woman's forlorn cry drifts between hissing wood and ember. The scene is depressing, gloomy, hazy, and gray. Accompanying the flames are orchestral strings which swell like a final sigh, exhaling with the same resignation as the calls for help. Both soundtrack and fire-trapped soul, it seems, have already lost hope. To say this is an oppressive opening, well, that's an understatement. It feels like being dropped into a drum of treacle, where movement labors against the stench of death. Looking down, there are corpses everywhere. Fresh blood still glistens. Wounds are ripe before decay. Something terrible has happened here, and I'm compelled to find out what. Yet, treacle, as it happens, is an appropriate description for another reason. You see, the slipperiness of your character's traversal is as striking as the heavy atmosphere. He jogs, but his momentum resembles someone skirting along a patch of ice. It's immediately jarring, and it's not the only rough edge the Relic greets you with. Camera work consistently juts between trees, fence poles, and stone walls behind you, with its awkwardness exacerbated during combat when you're locked onto an opponent. Enemies themselves show little variation in archetype and moveset. The large-framed Axeman, for instance, follows a set pattern: swing, double swing, unblockable chop, axe throw, repeat. Then there are the game's NPCs, like the merchant I rescued alongside his daughter, who repeats the same short animation loop as we talk. His hands follow a circular motion like he's describing the wheels of a bicycle, and the village's ransacked dwellers fare no better, operating on similarly short cycles. And worse still, their faces lack detail enough to convincingly show a grimace to match the desperation in their voices. On the whole, vocal performances are effective at portraying despair, even if their mannerisms do not.
The door, and the little brother smiled at his sister until the very end. That day, the three of them stood together, and until the last breath, they were still a family.
Then there's an unintentional irony. The forest is currently undergoing some sort of violent pillage by the hands of a group known as the Looters. Yet, after clearing the village of assailants to explore the barn at its center, I find 3 gold coin purses. Surely, this counts as looting too. A handful of other technical hiccups slightly undermine the excellent atmosphere. Foliage pop-in, disappearing NPCs, and inconsistent collision detection, which sees a fleeing villager run right through me like I'm a ghost. Still, venturing deeper into the forest, I overlook these niggles to follow the narrative breadcrumb trail. Occasional glowing nodes reveal fragments of story, and it's an engaging way to learn about the recent tragedies befalling this particular stretch of woodland. Retelling the events like an audio diary, one such tale describes villagers who barricaded themselves away from a band of looters. And piece by piece, the story reveals a false promise, deception, and a survivor consumed by guilt. Delivering chapters and sound bites like this feel effective, like an engrossing book. I wanted to keep turning the page. There isn't always a worthwhile reward at the end, just satisfaction in reaching a neat conclusion. While the atmospheric storytelling may be evocative, the Relic First Guardian ultimately lives or dies by its combat. Showing Souls-like inspiration, you have access to a single attack, a block, parry, and a dodge, and despite its early promise, your moveset feels limited. The key distinction, however, is your stamina gauge, which is tied exclusively to defense and evasion. You cannot spam dodge or hold block, as you'll quickly drain your energy, ending up stunned and vulnerable. But on the flip side, if you string a handful of parries together, then your assailant becomes staggered. And what's more, timing windows feel generously wide, so it isn't long before you're deflecting strikes and swings with ease. It's just, during these early skirmishes, you don't have any devastating finishers. These come far later. Elsewhere in your arsenal are relic-powered elemental abilities, which operate on a cooldown, as is space for the titular relics themselves to provide passive bonuses when equipped. Increased vitality, bonus HP for every enemy slain, boosted stamina, and so on. Through exploration, you'll learn that the Relic's semi-open world isn't as demanding as Dark Souls' usual fare. Areas for rest functions as bonfires, yet cleared enemies will not respawn. There's usually a reset area adjacent to a boss arena too, and likewise, resources aren't lost on death, nor does currency need retrieving from a place that you fell. Eschewing Souls-like typical punishment alleviates friction in exploration. So in other words, you're free to wander intuitively, scavenging resources, collecting story fragments, assisting country folk, and finding more weapons to add to your sword and shield starter. And speaking of weapons, you'll find these by following these same glowing memories outlined earlier. In doing so, you'll discover each one-of-a-kind weapon's rich, often tragic backstory, simultaneously fostering attachment while grounding them in the world's lore. A blacksmith can upgrade your weapons too, but he's encountered only sporadically. And worse, he demands a bounty of crafting resources to bolster your blade. Even after multiple hours of playtime, I still did not have enough. My desire to build craft grew tiresome the more downed enemies did not drop the fragments and shards that I needed. And still, each weapon has its own skill tree, with powerful specials and finishers unlocking more expressive combat. The power of the two-handed axe, for instance, is released by spinning scythes and towering cleaves, pulverizing enemies with satisfying heft. The catch is that those abilities too are painfully slow to unlock. Like the blacksmith's upgrades, each ability costs an excess of currency. This time, Relic energy, harvested from ancient locations found throughout the wilds. Most award 600 energy, while skills begin at 1000 and rise thereafter. Weapon skills aren't the only Relic energy sink either. Opening additional Relic slots requires abundant Relic energy, alongside a rarely found Awakening Shard. Ultimately, the rate you acquire relics outpaces your ability to use them, hindering the build potential in your inventory. Now thankfully, relics can be freely swapped to suit different scenarios or playstyles, so limited slot availability isn't the progression system's biggest flaw. Instead, honing your character through weapon enhancements, skills, and relics is an undeniable grind, leaving combat starved of meaningful growth for too long. I yearned for more tools, more than the D-pad controlled consumables, more than the 1 or 2 skills I unlocked every couple of hours, with the limits to your arsenal becoming obtrusive during the boss fights. Now, the first few that you encounter can be parried and downed without issue, but as you venture deeper, boss difficulty scales accordingly. And soon enough, they're swinging multiple unblockable strikes, throwing fire, and generally demanding more than parrying and a pair of skills and relic slots apiece can provide. And worse still, I experienced a couple of boss battles that were marred by sluggish frame rates, skipping audio, and other technical gremlins. Luckily, despite these grievances, exploration remains invigorating throughout. If I was having trouble with a particular boss, there was always plenty of ground to cover elsewhere, where relics and crafting resources are eventually uncovered. If only I could consistently find the blacksmith. And exploration again speaks to the Relic First Guardian's great strength, where every village, rampart, or cave has a story to tell. Its world is often a miserable place to traverse, but through its inclement atmosphere shines pockets of humanity. The Relic First Guardian may never escape its technical shortcomings, but its melancholy world is well worth saving. And that'll be about it for this one. If you guys like what we're doing at GamingBolt, please consider subscribing to our channel, and I'll see you guys on the next video.